Guys, you need to be aware of what is going on right now. Now, I saw a bunch of people on Twitter saying that it was a great day for free speech when Joe Rogan basically wasn't pulled off of Spotify when the mainstream media came for him, that Spotify stood with him. And I need to remind people that the money is what is speaking here. The dollar is what is speaking. It's not that Spotify care about free speech. It's not that they care about Joe Rogan. They only care about Joe Rogan as long as he remains popular. So everyone that is tweeting saying this is a great day for free speech, I'm just like, I mean, what planet do you live on? The minute Joe Rogan's podcast is not making the kind of money or getting the kind of pull that it's getting right now, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think Joe Rogan is going to remain relevant the more the mainstream media try to push for censorship and try to push for him to basically be removed from the platform. But the minute he's no longer popular and the minute he's no longer relevant, Spotify will drop him like that. It's not even a question of if. It will happen 100%. Now, the mainstream media have spread lies constantly. They changed what Joe Rogan looked like when he got the sickness. They made his face yellow and they put that on TV. They said that he was taking horse dewormer. They've basically lied about as much as possible. They also said that there was 270 doctors or some ridiculous number like that were asking for him to be pulled down. That's not the case. There was maybe like 70, 80 at best. Most of them were veterinarians, dentists, people that I guess don't really have a say in it, but you would call them doctors in a more informal capacity. But they're not the kinds of people that should be reaching out to get Joe Rogan deplatformed. And to be honest with you, that's just a headline that I read. I didn't actually see any individuals doing it, anybody from this list that they released. And now you've got some people who are so committed to getting rid of this man on the platform that they've gone and found clips from like 10 to 15 years ago of Joe Rogan out of context saying the N-word. Now I'm gonna tell you, as a black man, Joe Rogan, in all the time that I've seen him on YouTube and now on Spotify and wherever else he's done stuff, I have never seen him exhibit any signs of racism. Now what Joe Rogan did do is he explained a story and used the word in the story. He was not using it to insult or belittle another black man or black woman. So they took it out of context. They compiled this video, which by Joe Rogan's own account does not look good. But in context, he is not being racist. Now there's an argument to be made of, should you be saying the word if you're white, period. And that's fine to have that argument. But if someone's explaining something, you can turn around to them and say, hey, I'd prefer you didn't say that word because of the color of your skin. That is one conversation. But for these people to make out like Joe Rogan is a racist because he told a story, and in that story he repeated what someone else said within the story, is ridiculous. There was another part that Joe Rogan brought up where he went to see Planet of the Apes in a black neighborhood, and he made a joke, granted a distasteful joke, but a joke at that. Joke's a joke, right? There's loads of jokes that are made, and most of the time people are like, yeah, it's a joke. I mean, look at the whole Dave Chappelle thing. He made countless jokes at the expense of the LGBT community. It doesn't mean that he's transphobic or that he's homophobic. It's the same with Joe Rogan. It might have been a bad joke, it might have been in bad taste, but that does not mean that he is a racist. And these people only put this together because he is going against the mainstream narrative. And they're also panicking because Joe Rogan is one man. Joe Rogan does things on his own. I mean, he's got Jamie there, but outside of being hired by Spotify, the Joe Rogan experience is mostly run by Joe Rogan. And this one man is averaging about 10 to 11 million people per episode, where places like CNN would die to get that number. They're not even getting a fraction of that number. Not even a fraction of a fraction. So that's why there's so many attacks towards Joe Rogan. And I've been watching the JRE experience, the Joe Rogan experience, for probably 7 years now. And in that time, all I've seen Joe do is bring on interesting guests and let them speak. When you have guests on a network like CNN, they don't let them speak. They clip things, or they try to frame things in a way where it makes you look like the villain. That arrogant idiot, Don Lemon or whatever his name is, has got to be one of the most infuriating people to listen to. And I think he thinks because he's gay and black that he can somehow just get a pass to do whatever he wants. Now, as far as I'm aware, most of CNN or a lot of notable figures in CNN are currently under investigation for things they shouldn't have been doing, so I'm not so sure anyone over at that network should be speaking all high and mighty, but that's a conversation for another day. These guys are so afraid that this one man, this Joe Rogan, this pothead, this MMA commentator, this comedian, this guy that hosted Fear Factor, has got numbers that they could only dream of. And the more that they try to censor this man, the more that they try to get him pulled from Spotify or YouTube or wherever else, the more his audience is going to grow. They think because they're pulling out all the stops against Rogan, because he is allowing people to come onto their podcast and speak their mind where they wouldn't be allowed to on mainstream publications like CNN or pretty much anything else. I'm singling out CNN because they are the worst of the worst in my opinion, but you get the point. He lets people on there for 4 hours. Sometimes I've seen a podcast go beyond 4 hours where he just lets people speak and the conversation flows. He never claims to be a doctor. He never claims to know exactly what he's talking about. So it's okay for Fauci, Boris Johnson, Joe Biden, and all of these leaders and health officials to come on TV, and whether they're trying to protect us or not, get the information wrong 100 times. But it's not okay for Joe Rogan to platform people that genuinely have interesting takes and information on a situation that is constantly developing. No one really knows where it's going. It's wrong for him to do it. He's a merchant of misinformation, and yet we get what we get on TV. And I can't go into too much detail on it on here because, again, speech is very, very controlled now. If I say certain things, my video is just going to get taken down. There's no point. If you really want to look things up, you go on the internet, have a gander. Don't just look at the first result that comes up on YouTube. But in essence, people, CNN, MSNBC, Sky News, all of these outlets that have been fed to us, they are dying slowly, and they are trying to take down the guy that is speeding up their deaths. That is essentially what is happening here. You will see tons of videos of bad actors come out about Joe Rogan, about him now being a racist, about him being a transphobe, about him being homophobic. This is a man where if you watch his podcast, he lets people speak. He has let people like Mayo Yiannopoulos speak, however you say his name, who's someone that I don't particularly agree with. He's let that Sanjay Gupta come on his podcast, who basically spent most of the time just stuttering away. I've seen him have people on his podcast like Candace Owens where he didn't agree with a lot of what she said, but suddenly because he's allowing other voices to come through and not just the mainstream ones that are propped up by the mainstream media, now he's far right. Now he's a gateway to the far right. People that say that, keep them away from you. These are not people that are interested in finding out the truth. They're not even people that are interested in having conversations. These are people that want to control you. And the reason I'm talking about Joe Rogan on this channel, even though it's primarily a gaming channel, is because if they take out Joe Rogan, they will go for everyone else. And it always starts, you know, it starts in this place where everyone's like, oh, you're making a big deal out of nothing. And then before you know it, they have come for you next. I heard Jordan Peterson say that. Jordan Peterson said, you will be next. They will come for me, and then they will come for you. And it happens in drips and drabs, and people don't pay attention. It's important for Joe Rogan's voice to be heard. It's important for his podcast to exist. It's important for free speech. Now, that's not me conflating the two. Spotify don't care about free speech. Spotify care about where they get the most money from. If Joe Rogan starts costing them money, they will ditch Joe Rogan. That might not be in their best interest, because at this point, it really feels like Rogan is platforming Spotify. If I'm going to be 100% honest, because if they drop Joe Rogan, you know damn well he can come straight back to YouTube, he can bring his ass over to Rumble, he can do whatever he wants basically, and wherever he goes, the people are going to follow. He is one of those people where his audience will follow to listen to what's going on, because his podcast allows a wide range of people to basically listen to other opinions, where the news does not allow that. The news lets you hear what they want you to hear. Joe Rogan just isn't like that. And on the topic of this, I'm a little bit disappointed in The Rock. Now, The Rock is someone that I have looked up to for a long time, and largely The Rock seems to keep his head out of the political sphere. The one hiccup he made is when he endorsed Joe Biden. The Rock has backpedaled a little bit recently. Just recently, he supported Joe Rogan and Joe Rogan's podcast. This clip came out of Joe Rogan saying the N-word that someone's put together and taken out of context, and The Rock retracted his support of Joe Rogan. The Rock is someone that endorsed Joe Biden. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen, whether the clip is out of context or not really shouldn't matter to The Rock, but there is a clip of Joe Biden saying N-word this and N-word that.
We already have a mayor, we don't need any more big shots.
In front of a whole crowd of people. I think he's before the Senate or he's in some sort of courtroom. Now, I'm not saying that he was calling a black man. I actually think he was quoting something that someone said to a black man. But that shouldn't matter, because it doesn't matter for Joe Rogan, and The Rock pulled his support. And unfortunately, as much as I admire The Rock in a lot of different aspects, for him to do something like that, it just goes to show that these Hollywood types are more interested in protecting their own image than letting the truth get out there. And honestly, when I saw The Rock supporting Joe Rogan, I was like, of course The Rock would do that. The Rock is uncancelable. Now, unfortunately for The Rock, when he retracted his statement, people went for him, and they found comments that he made in 2011. Nobody is safe, guys. The left will continue to eat themselves. And I like to think of myself as someone that is classically liberal. I don't know what's going on these days. I really don't. And I'm talking more to American politics right now and how it has shaped their society. We don't really get the same sort of problems over here in the UK, but we pay attention to what's going on over there. And it's honestly insane. You know, I had someone the other day tell me that they thought Ben Shapiro was a white supremacist, and that should tell you everything that you need to know. You may not like Ben Shapiro, you may not agree with a lot of his opinions. There's some opinions of his I don't agree with, but to say he's a white supremacist, to say that Jordan Peterson is a transphobe, to say that Joe Rogan is a racist, that these guys are gateways to the far right, it goes to show you that CNN has done its job in basically fooling some people into believing these things, and it's really a shame. But I just wanted to get my thoughts out there on that. Hope you guys liked the video, and hopefully I'll be back with some more soon. Take care and peace.